Okay, hi, Gene. This is Kirsten. Here you.
Hi, Kirsten.
Hey, Gene. Okay, so we're going to introduce you to my audience. I think most of you know Gene from Blessed to Teach, my friend Rick's site, and Rick was kind enough to introduce me to Gene, and we've been talking back and forth, and we thought we should share some information with you about what's really going on. So if you're not really deep red pilled or you're not really open to this, then I'm sorry, but you don't have to watch this video. But we want to share some information with you. Okay. All right. So first question is, are there more than one Donald J. Trump?
Yeah, from my understanding, how that works, Kirsten, is that normally when they clone, they do in sets of 6, and from my understanding, they did 2 with Trump, so that if he were to be, is assassinated, they could rush him to the hospital and then let people know he's okay, so that we don't lose the original. He's often sequestered, and only rarely he did go to the rally, from my understanding, in Texas. But normally you're seeing a clone that's more, in his case, they do it more like a drone, where the clone's there and he's actually, they have the ability, like the stealth fighters can read your thoughts, and you just think what you want it to do, track this, fire at that. And so it's the same with Trump. He can actually download and speak through the clone like it's a little receiving drone, and he talks through it and moves the clone around and everything. It's just like it's him. But his consciousness is being transmitted to it and controlling the little clone drone. No, onomatopoeia there.
So you think there's more than 2, correct?
Yeah, from my understanding, there's 2 sets of 6, which would be 12.
Okay, so you told me there's like 3 kinds of clones, correct? Or was I wrong? Incorrect.
You have that perfectly correct. The primary clones that they first started doing with what's called the boys in Brazil, when they cloned Hitler, was back in the early 40s. The Nazis did that. And what they do is, between your navel and the bottom of your groin, called the perineum, halfway between, they go in through the belly button and into that area. And in that area, there's 64 what are called glial or stem cells, and they take 1 or 2 is all they need. And then they can grow those. And then once they get it to a certain level of maturity, they impregnate that into a woman, and she carries that to full term and delivers the baby. And then they have technology to advance it to whatever age that they want, and then they stop the fast aging process. And then that clone's ready to be used, and they can put it in storage, like cold storage, or they can activate it and send it out to do whatever they need it to do. That's the first type. Then the second type was what you saw with Nixon, and that's why and some of these are operating for Trump as well, what are called robotoids, and those are created at Bethesda, Maryland. And so what they do is they take a person and you sit in a chamber that records all of your biorhythms, which you have 3: mental, physical, and your spiritual. And they download that into a hard drive, a computer. Then once they've got everything, you leave, and they take essentially, particle beams, low level DEW weapons, if you will, but very low, not powerful. And they literally coalesce from light another you that, in this case, it has all of your memories and knowledge and everything, and it thinks it's you. And from that moment on, it thinks it's you. And then that is very much like if you watch the original Tron. If it doesn't get recharged everywhere, it does what's called derezzing, and it'll start to break down and spin off into light. So like Nixon actually died in the middle of his term when he and his wife were flying up to Canada and crashed in an airplane that was brought down. And so they set the recording, they made a robotoid, but they had not made a duplicate. That's why they always do now, like the first way. And so they only had a robotoid. So those have to go to Camp David. I'm not sure the periodicity. I think it's at the very most once a year, but I think it's much more often. That's why you see presidents that have to, like, Trump will go to Camp David. That's actually the robotoid going to Camp David and getting recharged. That's where they recharge them. And, in the case of where you saw Nixon, you can tell a robotoid because when he was in China speaking to Prime Minister at the dinner, They hit him with a sonic EMP combined weapon that disturbed, it was supposed to kill him, but because he's a robotoid and he had done a little bit of derezzing, his frequencies weren't, as you derez, your frequencies drop. So his resonant frequencies, which they knew of his mind, spirit, body, and soul, had lowered so that it just made him ill. And that's why when he was talking to the premier of China at that time, he literally threw up on him. And I don't know about you, but for me, I know within at least a tenth or a half of a second I'm going to throw up, and I don't throw up on people if I get suddenly violently ill. I can at least get my hand on my mouth and kind of go to the side. And then when he was sitting at the dinner with his wife, he slid under the table, and she didn't even, I mean, if your husband, in which if you like him, you love him, you hate him, you would at least like glance under the table or jump up or do something. And all she does is stare off into space, frozen, because they'd hit them with another beam. They had recalibrated thinking they're off. They hit him with another beam trying to kill him. And that didn't work. It just stunned him. And they had dropped the frequency knowing that maybe that's a robotoid, but, and they maybe not have other copies. And so that's the second type of clone. And then the third type of clone is actually not exactly cloning, and it's what you see currently with Biden. A lot of times you see these people, you'll see it suddenly, they'll be in public like you did with Biden a little while back, where the left eye is black and blue. And so what that is and your friend Linda Paris talked about this on one of her shows. It's called a vril lizard. It's a little lizard kind of demon that's about 2 to 4 feet tall. When they mature, on the top of their head, they grow what's called a proboscis. And so when those are mature, if they don't download their cerebral spinal fluid into a host, they die. So they have to do that fairly quick. And so down underneath used to be in China Lake. It used to also be in DI under Denver and DIA. They've taken the white hats have taken those out. I'm not sure where they're doing it now. I'm trying to track that, but they take these little lizards and hold them over so they could put their proboscis around your left eye, and then their cerebral spinal fluid swirls down that around your eye and goes into your down your what's the nerve? I can't remember the name. Sorry, we'll go blank here. I can't remember the name of the nerve that attaches from the eye to the brain.
Oh, I don't know. What's that?
Okay. So anyway, it goes down that nerve into the cerebral spinal fluid, and what it does is it starts to convert you to that little lizard creature, but you look like you. But it has uploaded all of its consciousness, although it doesn't have the level of consciousness we do. It's just a demon. So I mean, they don't have our level of consciousness, and so after about a week, the person dies, and then they lay dead for about an hour or two, and then they come back to life, and that's when the vril is completely in charge. And for about 2 weeks, they'll be real sick, and then the vril will be in complete control of all of the person's autonomic functions and as well as their regular functions, and it'll take them a while just to integrate the memories. And so that's why you see with Biden when he was touring, and he's missing the cities of where he's actually speaking. He's in the state. He doesn't know the geography of the world. He's talking about China's not a threat because they have, on the east side of them, they have the South China Sea, which is on the west side, right? And you have that on the other side of the Himalaya, and then he gets confused, and that's why you see that confusion, and they don't remember things about themselves. And
I thought that was from his stroke.
What's that?
I thought that was from his stroke. Didn't he have a stroke?
No, he died. The stroke was when he died because the vril took over.
Oh.
And so then they get, and at that point, they don't have a lot of sense of humor anymore. They don't have a lot of emotions. They become very deadpan. They don't, and there was a man that was tried by a judge that was that way, he was a homeless veteran, and this couple gave him a job and let him live in their basement. And then he wanted pizza after he got done work on the house one time. And they said, we don't have pizza. We already started dinner. And so he went out and got a pizza and came back and killed the couple and put their blood on the pizza and made a blood pizza because they wouldn't let him have pizza. And so when the judge was trying him and he was, being put up on the witness stand, he said, why did you have to kill them? He goes, because they wouldn't let me have pizza. I had to have a blood pizza then. And he laughed. So their sense of humor becomes really warped.
Is
The
that
only
why he gropes people? Is that another?
that's the original him.
Oh, that's the original. Okay.
He just what's called in the FBI, they call the term a MAP, which means minor attracted person. He's attracted to children. And pretty much anybody. That's why, you know, all of the Secret Service and everybody working with him, he's groping their wives and their grandchildren and their grandmoms, and he doesn't care. And you know, his Secret Service, when he was vice president, hated being around him because he'd swim naked in his pool and walk around naked.
I know about that. Okay, so let's get back to Trump. So Trump only has. Does he have he has the first kind of clones, right?
He has the first two. He has the Robotoid that they can make another one anytime it dereses if it doesn't get back in time, or if it dies or it's killed. And because they have that signature. And once they have that signature in the hard drive, they can make one anytime they want.
Okay,
and then
so
they have the other kind too, which was the first kind.
So the Patriots did this, right? Correct?
Yes, the Patriots did this, the Alliance, the Q Alliance.
Who are those women that bear the babies? Are they just surrogate mothers that don't know who they're
well, in the case of the deep state, they don't know. But in the case of Trump and the Alliance, the people that are working for the Alliance, they do know, and they volunteer, you know, patriotically. They're very high up in the intelligence, of course, and they volunteer to carry that child. And because it's already been somewhat grown, gestation is not the typical 9 months, because, you know, it's to the point, right, what I call the first event horizon, is something forms right before when the baby gets to, you know, it's not a baby yet, it's 60, it's still, you know, gonna be a baby, but it's 64 cells, right at the 64 cell point, the whole zygote starts to vibrate, and it's the next doubling, which is 128 cells, then the cells start to differentiate and you start to have, you know, brain cells, nerve cells, you know, skin cells, that kind of thing.
How many months is that before that? I mean,
I'm not, that's one of my weak topics. I'm not sure of how the time frames for gestation goes for how many weeks in that is.
Okay, so let's get into he was at the Dallas rally, right?
Yes, he was, and that was the real him.
That was the real him, and then there was an assassination attempt, correct?
Yes, and as you know, Kirsten, we talked about that earlier, and that's always a 6-man. They love that number. Hit team. And
I always say that when it's a CIA operation or you know, clown operation, it's multiple shooters, one patsy. Multiple.
Right. You have one patsy who is the guy going in with the door with the AR-15 and the riot gear and the spray can and the anti-C clothes. Right. And then the two ladies that first Trump pointed, and he said, "Wow, that was fast." And our security and our military and our police are incredible. And then later on, he pointed up to his left, and then within a second, he just gave a thumbs up. And so were the two main shooters. So
there were two women, and they were Caucasian, and they had those guns that were made out of plastic, correct?
Right. They're a hybrid type of material, like the stealth fighters, that are made out of an interweaving of carbon fibers and plastic and other materials.
Coal pan. They use that
exactly.
for the jets. Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. So, all right. So that he was at that rally. Was he at the Tampa rally, the real him?
No.
He was not at the Tampa rally.
No.
What other rallies do you know that the real him was at?
He was at the rally that it was at the LP gas plant.
Okay, okay.
And then all of the rallies in 2016, that was him.
The last one, right before the Dallas rally, was he at that the last Louis Vuitton?
No.
The Louis Vuitton thing with Ivanka and what's his name? Ivanka.
No, that wasn't Ivanka either. That was a clone too.
Okay. And what about Jared? That wasn't Jared either?
No, clone too.
Okay. All right, interesting. So, all right. So when he goes overseas, is that really him or is that a clone?
Most of the time, that's him because of the level of what they're working with and the foreign.
He goes overseas. But when he's
Right.
in the United States, it's mostly not him, correct?
Right. Overseas, the foreign dignitaries know about this tech, and it's kind of an insult not to deal with the original. So most of the time when he goes overseas, it's the original. Oh, and by the way, when he announced early this morning at around, I don't remember the exact time, about the death of Baghdadi, that was the real him making that announcement.
Abul. And those, when they said that they got Abu Baghdadi, those were clones of Abu Baghdadi.
Well, the ones before last night were. The one last night that they got that was whimpering.
That was crying like a baby and screaming. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, begging for his life on his hands, actually laying on his tummy, and he was first on his hands and knees and begging and to Allah and all kinds of things, and God and everything, because they just try everything.
He blew himself and the 3 children up, right?
Right, those were his children, and then the dog, the soldier dog, got collapsed in the cave-in that caused, and that's why the soldier dog is in critical condition. They flew it back to the United States right away to go into the emergency room.
Okay, so we got that. Now let's get into the clones of Obama. How many clones of Obama are there?
We're on number 18. And then also you had a skin suit being worn by a demon for a while when he was president, and they took that. The deep state didn't appreciate that either. It was a demon that wasn't allowed to be in there. And so the deep state actually took that one out. They didn't even know the demon was playing around in a meat suit.
Yeah. What was I going to say? So the real Obama, where is he?
He's up right now. He turned himself in because he couldn't take being the catcher for Big Mike anymore. He was getting really miserable, being beaten up every night and raped. And so he turned himself in, and they took him like they did Jeffrey Epstein up into Iceworm Base, which is in Greenland. So he's under the ice up there, and it's a very, very, very secure base.
So is he talking or is he not talking?
Oh, he's singing like the proverbial mockingbird.
Okay, so why are they allowing? Okay, so they're allowing his clones to work for the deep state still.
Yeah, because the clone, once the clone is activated and out running, it doesn't know what the original is doing. It's not true the other way around. The original knows what all the clones are doing, and it literally feels what the other clones. So if you kill a clone, the original feels like they died, but then they don't. And so, it can be very painful for the original. And so the clones run around, and they don't even know, necessarily there are other clones, and they think quite often they're the original, and they're doing stuff, and they're running to the various handlers like Big Mike or whatever.
The clone is not living with Michael Levon Robinson, AKA Michelle, correct?
Right. She has a new toy that she's living with because she got tired of Big Barry too, because he wasn't being very fun and crying and whimpering too much when he beat him.
Yeah, when she was throwing him against the wall and stuff.
Yeah, throw him against the wall and punching him in the face and all that stuff. The BDSM, really brutal
8
stuff.
years of that is a lot.
Yeah, after a while, every day, every night, when they do their code word, all the presidents have a code word, which means that them and their first lady need alone time. Right. And so, Big Mike would give the code word, and Barry would, a lot of times towards him, would start to wince. He's like, oh, not again. It's like 3-5 times a day. It's just never going to end. And that's why, when they finally came to it, he just couldn't take it anymore. They finally asked him. He said, oh, please, send me up there. I can't do this.
Right. So, but Michael / AKA Michelle, is on a higher level of the clowns in America than Barry was, correct?
Yeah, she's way the heck up there.
And she's the one that fired he is the one that fired all the generals, basically, right?
Right. She was actually running our country for 8 years. It had nothing to do with Barry. Mm-hmm. She was the one, or Sherm, whatever you want to call it, was the one that was running our country and doing all the things and everything. And all Barry is a mouthpiece and a pretty boy to get out, because you know, that's how they do the same thing with the movie stars. They're just pretty people for you to follow, to, you know, wow, they're so amazing. They're so handsome. They're so pretty.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't Valerie Jarrett, the handler?
No, Valerie Jarrett is the handler for a few other people, not Barry.
Oh, I thought, yeah, I thought they said that she was. Okay, so we got him. Let's go to what's happening with Hillary.
Yeah, now Hillary actually died, if you remember, during the 2016 election process when they were debating and had the debates, and she was starting to get the sudden weird, not tremors like Merkel, that's one way it manifests, but the sudden jerks, which is the lower end of, towards the end of stage 2. They don't have long to go after that. And when you see that, and she also would get like Tourette's, where she'd start, the special services guy, he can go into, you know, when her and Bill would get in the elevator and she'd just curse and scream at him and curse and scream at all the, you know, the special service. And, you know, they said she was really nasty.
So she was dead, but not really completely dead, correct? Because
not at that point.
Completely dead. Did she have doubles or did she have clones? She had clones.
She had clones, but that was the real her that collapsed.
Yeah, I understand that. But so if the original dies, then the clones kind of collapse too, right?
They start to decompose, and you've got only about a few, like 48 days, I believe it is, to you know, before the clones will start to decompose. If they don't have the original, they have to keep pumping out clones, because like you saw with Michael Jackson, he actually died during that Coke commercial when it caught on fire. And so the clones with him started having the melanin disappearing and the nose falling off and all kinds, and they keep pumping out clones, but they don't have very long to disintegrate. And the further you get away from the time that the original died, the faster the clones disintegrate.
That's why they're keeping, in Greenland, that's why they're keeping Hillary like kind of like comatose, kind of, right?
Yeah, she's kind of on ice because a couple of reasons.
First, means dead, right? Or no?
Well, no, it means cryogenics.
So she's still alive?
She's kind of alive. The way they're slowing down her metabolic processes, because it's very difficult to keep her as the undead. She's not alive, but she's not dead. She died going in outside and during the election process outside the van, and the Secret Service guy, you know, grabbed her and held her in his lap, and they rushed her to Chelsea's, and she was dead then. And then they, you know, same thing, if you die from a heart attack, they can revive you for a few minutes. I mean, not very long, because you start to get, you know, your brain dying after 5 minutes, but they can revive you in a few minutes. But in the case of somebody who dies from Kuru, then they have to give you adrenochrome laced blood. And so she had a backpack she has to always wear now that has fresh blood that is constantly, you know, slowly trickled into her body. And then under her right foot is what's known as a fistula. And at first it has to be huge, because they have to replace the entire amount of blood. And that's what you saw with McCain, and you saw it also with Hillary, because they got to replace the entire amount of blood.
Kuru too.
Yeah, they have to replace all of the blood within 24 hours, and it has to be an ongoing process.
I didn't know he had Kuru.
Yeah, he died from it as well. And then once the whole blood is replaced, then they can slow it down, but it's still constant every day. I mean, they're literally consuming a kid a week in the amount of blood.
He didn't die of, they didn't put him to death. He died of Kuru too.
Yeah, they actually, he didn't really get lethal injection. They just stopped the draining and supply of blood to him. So he died. To die of Kuru is like incredibly terrible. It's one of the most terrible ways you could possibly die.
I'm surprised John Brennan didn't partake in that too. Shocking.
Yeah, and in the case of Brennan, I'm still trying to research if he's born a he or he's born a she. I'm leaning heavily towards that he's actually not a he but a she. If he's a he, he's incredibly gay. But
his code name is Lotion the Pumpkin. I did a video on that, and he was arrested supposedly last year around a certain time, like December the 27th. My female dog died then, so that was the story that came out, that he was arrested for being a Lotion the Pumpkin, which is his pedophile name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's another map.
Is that true?
Yeah, he's another map.
He was arrested, correct?
Yes, and then his clone was let out.
His clone was let out. Okay, so is he arrested right now, or is that him?
Yeah, he's also up in ice base.
Okay, so the clone is out. There's a
Right.
clone of him. And
Right.
then what about, did they make, I did ask you about John Kerry. They did arrest John Kerry for a period of time, right?
Right, and I'm not sure with John Kerry. I'm not 100% sure on Brennan. It may be I'm only about 94.7% sure that that's a clone. It may be the original. In his case and with Kerry, because the deep state can tell. And so they may have let the originals back out to keep running around to their handlers and, letting the alliance know all of the information. Because once they capture them, they put implants, just like the deep state does with Mark Ultra. They put microwave implants and listening devices in the person's brain so that they can monitor that person everywhere they go, everything they see.
Wouldn't the deep state know that?
No, those are non-organic. Those are organic implants that are not detectable. They're actually little kind of critters, if you will.
Would they not even guess it, or are they that arrogant and stupid?
They're that, because Q said, these people are stupid. They're incredibly arrogant and stupid.
The arrogance blocks the common sense and makes them stupid. That's the problem.
Yeah, they're arrogant beyond all comprehension to me. I mean, it's just like, wow. But, I do understand it, having been 40 years and teaching combat and martial arts. I had a student for 18 years that, I would give him openings and he would come in and take them every time and I'd stomp him. He's like, I can never get you. Every time I take an opening, I go, you got to make your openings. If you see an opening, it means I gave it to you. I'm going to eat you up when you come in. You got to make your own. If you don't make it, it's there. You see it. I'm not so stupid. I'm going to be that poor at what I do. I've been doing this for almost 50 years. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but you were in the Marines, correct?
Navy.
Navy. Okay, sorry. The Navy. Okay. All right. And let me see. What other information did we talk? Oh, we talked about Elijah Cummings.
Right. And Elijah was put to death with, I'm not sure what his chosen suicide was. They have it when you join the cabal, you have to choose how you want to be killed if you get caught.
Right.
And so they have a list, hanging, lethal injection, firing squad. I don't know what he chose, but they killed him
6 months ago, right?
Yeah, they didn't kill him 6 months ago. They killed him about 2 weeks after that. It was about 12 and a half days after that they killed him. And that break-in into his home was due to the executive order that if you're found guilty of human trafficking and raping children, then your property is seized by the government.
But he stole billions of dollars from Baltimore. Did they get that money back?
They got some of it through the massive amount of art collection he had, as well as some gold and silver bullion he got, just like with Barry. Mm-hmm. When they raided his compound, they got, in the case of Barry, it was significant. It was $14 trillion in gold bullion. Same thing.
That was in Thailand, correct?
Yes.
That was in Thailand. Okay, so with Elijah Cummings, he was put to death by the Patriots, correct?
Correct.
Not by the deep state, right? And he was like, you said he was like, what was he? He was like the top wizard or something?
Yeah, he's one of the top wizards on our continent. There's the top 7 on each continent under the cabal, under the very top leadership of the cabal.
Okay, so now let's go into the 2 that you said had the Merovingian, I can't even pronounce that
Merovingian.
Merovingian bloodline. That would be Adam Schiff, right?
No, not Adam Schiff.
Not Adam Schiff?
No.
Bill Mayer?
No. I can't remember the name right now. I'm sorry. Adam Schiff is what's known as a Lycosian, which is a type of werewolf type demon thing.
Oh. But I mean, so is there clones of him too, or no?
I don't know if you can clone those critters. Probably, but I don't know about
What
shift.
about Bill Mayer? What you said he had a certain bloodline or something.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood what you said. Yeah, Mayer is in the Merovingian line. He's actually a cousin to Rothschild, Miriam Rothschild.
Okay, so let's name the 13 families. Let me start. We have the Lee family, which I just figured this out, that our very famous prime minister is Lee Kuan Yew. That's the same Lee family.
You got it.
You guys spell it L-I, but we spell it L-E-E.
Right, and that's why Bruce Lee, spelled it L-E-E. He was in that family too.
Yeah, and did they assassinate him? They did, probably.
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder why they did that.
Because he was teaching the true martial arts to many, many, many people. And in martial arts, if you know the true stuff, by the ancient dictates of martial arts, you're allowed to have one Padawan. You don't teach every student like D-Mock and those guys, like kill with a touch and those guys, or a thought. You don't teach that to everybody. And he was.
How did they kill him? Do you know?
Bruce Lee?
Yeah.
D-Mock.
What's that?
Death touch.
Oh, okay. How do you know that girl that girl that got killed, exposing Mueller, erasing the phone conversations between Page and Strzok?
I heard just kind of offhand through
so you
third or fourth party, so I can't verify anything.
Okay, so you said that Lisa Page had an affair with, besides Strzok, Andrew McCabe, correct?
And Comey.
And Comey. Oh, because Comey exposed that Strzok had an affair with O'Blammy.
Yeah, it's like if you look.
Yeah, because that other guy, the John, who's on that other network. See, I know that you're telling truth because everything fits together. Like that one guy that was, he's a little crazy, but I talked to you about him, that was an ambassador. He always talks about the blue tie Trump, which tends to be a little bit liberal, if you know what I mean. The blue tie Trump. And then this one, then the John guy that was on that other, channel was talking about Comey wanted Lisa Page very badly, so he exposed the fact that Strzok had an affair with O'Blammy.
Yeah, and so Lisa's what's known as a pass-around girl.
Yeah, and she only seems to want to go out with people that are married. It's very strange.
They kind of like certain girls like that, and so, or they're relegated to that because they need to. They do that. The deep state does that so that they have blackmail on those people. And then again, every person you see in the deep state, like their name, that's not their name. The name that you're seeing is not the name that they really are.
Okay, so to name the families, we have the Lee family, the Warburgs, the Windsors, which are the English royalty. We have the Bundys, from where Ted Bundy came from. We have the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Pacers, the what else? I have
Mellons, Rockefellers, Rothschilds. I'll just run through them. I don't know which ones you hit there. The Plantagenet, which is under the Merovingian, and the Pacer are the two branches of the Merovingian. The Pacer, which I believe are all gone. They were taken out in the demon base that was deep under the two demon bases deep under the Pacific and the Atlantic. They blew the doors. The Alliance blew the doors and flooded those and killed everybody in them, all the demons and all the people that were there.
Where was that? Where was that base?
One was just off the coast of DC. And then the other one was halfway between Hawaii And if you draw a line between Hawaii, the Oahu, Honolulu, draw a straight line between there and Seattle, halfway in between exactly. That's where that base's entrance was, and they blew the entrance and it flooded the whole thing, and including the Pacific Tunnel system that goes for the DUMBs, that goes from the DUMBs in the United States to the DUMBs in Asia and Hawaii. That's now taken out because they flooded the entire thing.
So are we getting control of the DUMBs, or there's too many to get control of?
All of the deep surface, there's levels, you gotta understand. Like the deep states DUMBs are actually kind of, only around 5 miles to 40 miles deep. And then the demon DUMBs are about 80, except for in the case of DIA in Denver, which was 83 miles deep, went down to 83 miles because it's 8 cities on top of each other. Then the demonic ones are between 80 miles and 200 miles. And then the ancient demonic ones are about 500 miles deep.
Okay. Well, okay, so I assume that we have control of the majority of them, correct?
All but the deep 500-mile deep DUMBs of the demons are taken out. There were 15.
And then, so what's happening with, why are we still having chemtrails if all the bases are out?
Well, you got to also realize not all the shallow bases, because just in the U.S., I know of precisely where 188 are, but there's another 200. I don't know where they are. There's 388. I don't know if the Alliance knows them all. And then on top of that, you can put in an airstrip. The CIA can put an airstrip down overnight. So you've got all of these little drones that are made to look like commercial airliners. Right. But if you look, you'll see a commercial airliner that looks exactly the same size, like 2,000 feet higher than the one you're looking at, and they're the same size. And the lower one's laying out chemtrails, and the upper one may have a very short contrail. In other words, the condensation of the water vapor coming out of the jet engine. Right. And so you have that happening. You're essentially having, and then on top of that, the Alliance is putting out a new type of chemtrail that's been engineered in a lab to destroy the old stuff. And so that the difference, how you can tell, is you look at the chemtrail, and as it expands, it starts to feather out and it stays white, and it literally is drawn to the old stuff, which as it expands, it doesn't feather out. It gets big, huge tubes or lays out like a big greasy smear across the sky. The new stuff, when it hits the old stuff, you'll both, not within a few hours, will completely, the sky will turn blue, and if it rains, you'll see what looks like curled up dog hair, and if you blow on it, it just falls to dust. And then if you're up in an airplane and you see it up high when it decomposes, it's kind of beautiful. As the new stuff hits the old stuff, it makes what looks like, the first time I saw it, I was coming back from Japan, I'm like, over the Pacific, I see blue lakes at 35,000 feet. I'm like, bright blue lakes? That's pretty weird. It was real beautiful, and I could see the new chemtrails killing the old ones and destroying them. And what they're killing is the nanotech and the nanofibers and the smart dust.
The crazy thing was when they did that big storm in Japan, what was the name of it? The major storm in Japan, and the sky was pink and purple. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that big storm that they engineered storm there. That was crazy. So we don't have to worry about the chemtrails, you don't think? You think it's all working itself?
Well, it's like the DUMBs. You got a war going on, but God always wins, so I wouldn't worry about it. We're on the winning side, and so are the Alliance, and so eventually they're going to get it taken care of, and it's getting better and better. This country, that's why Trump, when he go around, you hear him, he's saying, we have the cleanest air in the world. And then when he was in France, he goes, the air here is not nearly as clean. And what he's saying, it's code speak for the amount of control they have over the different aerial craft that are putting down chemtrails. Right,
yeah. Okay, the last portion of this little thing, we want to go through what, is happening with my channel, and what Just Informed talked about, and Blessed to Teach, my friend Rick talked about, our friend Rick talked about. So
Right.
can we talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you said I have about 5 times more subscribers than is showing, correct?
Yeah, just pretty much multiply by a factor of 5 directly, because the AI algorithms go in there and they have an automatic like division function, divide and subtract.
Right.
Because if they took you to 0, you'd probably give up, and they don't want you to give up. They want you to keep trying, so you expend your energy and get frustrated, because there's types of demons that feed on our emotions of frustration and anger and hate and all of those type of things, and envy, the 7 sins in the Bible, essentially.
And so what happened with, what did Rick and Just Informed Talk expose, that they're not censoring them anymore?
They are censoring them.
They are censoring them, but what, they exposed something where the numbers still went up.
In the case of Rick, I think it was the decodes that he did with the, that I put in, that we did together a little bit, where I read all of the dumps, and then his numbers shot up by.
Oh, the dumps! You were reading all the dumps. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, it wasn't anything about censoring then.
No.
I did videos about the dumps. My numbers didn't shoot up. Maybe you're the special sauce. Maybe
I don't know. Maybe I'm the secret sauce.
You're the secret sauce. Oh my gosh, really? It's like, oh. Anyway, yeah, I think, is there anything else we need to cover, or yeah?
I mean, anything you want, any questions you have, I'm fine with that.
Okay, I think we explained to them about how the clones are done, what kind of clones there are. Everyone has like little clones. So basically, Hillary is like, she's still like alive, but on ice, or what's going on there?
Yeah, she's alive, and her metabolic rates are brought way down, so that her heartbeat beats about once a minute, and she's also in extreme containment, because once a person dies from Kuru, they're so infectious that if they breathe out and you're within an area like where you could smell somebody's breath when they have really bad breath, you would actually catch it. In the late parts of stage 2, they're contagious by fluids or open sores, like with syphilis.
Bill's got it, right?
Yeah, he's dying from it. That's why these open sores starting to happen on him sometimes. Yeah. That's the middle of stage 2, the open sores.
Said, George Soros is dead, correct?
Yeah, he died
6 months ago.
Right, and those are clones that they have to keep pumping out because the original is dead.
And
you see him in public; those are clones.
He's not in public, but you see his face, his skin was peeling off his face, and I think he must have died when they caught him in Switzerland last year, right?
Yeah, they tried to get him alive like they did Baghdadi, but just like Baghdadi's on his knees and crying, and he had a suicide vest, and he had some. In his case, he didn't have his children because he wants his progeny to go on. Right. So he took some hostage kids and he blew himself up along with I don't know the exact number, but I know it's more than 2. He blew himself up with a bunch of innocent kids that weren't even his.
They said 3, right? They said 3.
In the case of Baghdadi, it was his 3 children. He was using them as shields.
Right.
And then he just realized all he could do is take as many soldiers with him, and all he did, he injured the dog, but the soldiers knew to back up, and they backed up real quick, so that and they had.
But what happened with Soros?
Soros was taken out in that compound up there, and they wanted to get the information he has, so they tried to always get him alive. And they also don't kill people.
That was in Switzerland, right? When they got him in Switzerland, correct?
Yeah, they go and try to get him alive because they don't believe in killing somebody until you take them to trial and prove that they're guilty, even though it's kind of obvious. And so they always do that. They're not like the cabal.
What happened?
He had a suicide vest and killed himself.
He had a suicide vest? I heard he had cyanide or something, but he had a suicide vest also?
Yeah, he had the cyanide, so if the suicide vest doesn't work, and they also will, they bite the cyanide. It's usually a tooth or something like you see in the movie Doom, where they bite a tooth and die from it. But they breathe it out, and they can infect somebody with some of the cyanide. And then as they're dying, they blow the vest so that they don't feel the explosion so bad. They're real cowards.
Anyway, so he didn't take anyone else out with him.
Just the kids he was using as a shield.
That's Soros you're talking about.
And that's why you see the clones, they start to decompose. I mean, as they pump them out, the skins falls off and all that stuff. That's why when you see that with somebody, you're not looking at an original, you're looking at a clone and the original's dead.
I've never seen anyone's skin peel off their face like that. It's disgusting.
I have. I've known some clones. Send in the clones, as they used to say, not send in the clowns, send in the clones. I've seen some clones with their skin peeling off.
And the real Soros, was his skin peeling off like that or no?
No.
No. Okay. All right. So, and his wife never got he got Kuru, you said also.
Yeah.
He got Kuru, but he killed himself. He got Kuru though, but he wasn't
on the
was he on stage 2?
What's that?
Was he at stage 2 or 3 of the Kuru?
Stage 3, you've already died and been brought back. So he was in the mid stage 2.
Okay, so he was quite sick.
Yeah, quite sick, like Merkel shaking in the wind. You know, it manifests somewhat differently in different people. Another symptom of Kuru is severe thirst. That's why you see Hillary constantly everywhere she goes. She's always got water in her hand and she's drinking all the time.
But Hillary is not there now. So it's the clones, correct?
Yeah, that's the clones. She's on ice. Yeah, and then another point, Kirsten, on the Robotoid type, is if you go near them as they start to de-res, they literally smell like a body that's, I don't know how many people in the military probably have, but people who aren't, if you ever smell a body that's laying in an irrigation ditch for like a week, it's pretty bad. Oh. And so it's so bad that even if you hold your breath, your eyes will water and you'll start sweating, trying to get that from going in your skin. It's just so bad. You can smell it with your skin. It's so bad. And, the first one I ever met, I sent my student over, we had done Tai Chi in the park in Kapiolani in Oahu, and they had a buffet afterwards. And so I was eating, this guy with a little like straw hat was there, and then my eyes started watering, went away. It was like, I don't want to eat anymore. He goes, I thought you were going to bring us food. I go, why don't you go over and get it? Go by and talk to that guy, by the way. He came back, I'm not hungry either. What was that thing? It's so bad. It was like, yeah, it's a Robotoid.
And okay, so let's get to the last few people that are like compromised. So the reason why is the reason that they didn't make a clone of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and they had to have doubles, and the first one ran away, and now they're on to the second. Why did they make a clone of her?
Because she's a critter that I'm maybe like Shifty Shift, and that's why, by the way, that Trump calls him Shifty Shift, because he shifts. He can shift, like a werewolf. I mean, Shifty Shift.
He's a shapeshifter.
Right, and so in Ginsburg, she's not even close to human, and so I'm not 100% sure what kind of demons you can clone.
But I thought he was in the special bloodline. Wasn't he in that bloodline too, or no?
Yeah, and then as you get deeper up, higher up in the bloodlines, you get more and more pure, which means more and more of the blood of Satan from Cain. And as that gets higher and higher, it gets harder and harder to clone you. So if you're getting up in the platinogenetic
they didn't clone Schiff.
No, they didn't clone Schiff, and that may be.
They didn't clone Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
No, those are just doubles. And Hillary also has a lot of actors. So if you're paying attention to when she's speaking, where on this continent, when. You'll see her on different places way across the world, speaking within minutes.
It's like Nancy Pelosi. She was speaking at 3 places at one time. She was in Mexico and South America and in Europe all at one time.
Right, and those in that case are clones. And with Hillary, quite often they're just actors that are hired to act her as her.
The ones that are talking for her right now, are those actors or are they clones?
Most of those are actors for Hillary's case, because again, even the clone will start to become infectious due to something that's called quantum entanglement.
Okay. Okay, so all right, so we have Nancy Pelosi that has clones too. What's wrong with her?
She has Kuru.
She has Kuru also?
That's why most of the time, I know everybody, you guys think she's getting drunk all the time. Yeah, she drinks the $800, $1,300 bottles of the good stuff a lot, but a lot of that is Kuru. One of the manifestations sometimes is slurring of speech and difficulty to control your bodily movements. If you go online and look at the symptoms of Kuru, you'll see that.
And Kuru is from eating the brains of the children, right? The pineal gland, correct?
Yeah, that's part of the brain. And so when they take children, and you can go look at the interview of Rabbi Finkelstein of how they do this. So they put the children upside down and hang them, and then they cut out after they terrify them, they cut out the pineal, what they call the walnut, and then they get the walnut sauce. They squeeze it like walnut, and crack it and squeeze the adrenochrome out. And then they drain the blood. And then the meat, they don't have any use for it because they think it's not worth that much. And so they sell that to McDonald's and to their.
Oh gosh, so the McDonald's and different places, even the places for beef, that could be human meat, correct?
Yeah, the FDA actually checked on McDonald's, and it turned out it was 80% human.
Ew, gross.
So, I would recommend that.
That's why I don't eat meat. I only eat fish once in a blue moon.
Fish is a fish, and chicken, you usually can tell it's a chicken unless it's little tiny chicken tenders or something. I wouldn't go there either. And I wouldn't, how I eat my meat, because I got really sick a while back and I have to have high protein.
Right.
I had a witch attack me and almost killed me. Actually, a kind of combination witch, kind of scarab-like creature thing.
Oh yeah, let's not get into her.
Yeah, it's called a Borgia. But anyway, I got really sick, so I have to have high protein now. So I have a couple sources of people that raise their own cow and their own bison, and I can go out and look at it and see it has 4 legs. And so I know what I'm getting, and then it's pure organic, and it's completely free range, and then they take it in a dark room and it's killed with electricity, so it never has any fear, and I don't need the adrenochrome, and I don't want it, even from a cow. And so unless you're getting your meat like that, I wouldn't be, and you can go read listen to Finkelstein, the interview of Finkelstein at Rabbi Finkelstein, go look at him, research it online. The website on him, of his website, he's pretty arrogant, like they all are. Okay. And then also,
I want to cover 3 more people. I want to cover, you said Grassley and Lindsey Graham are being blackmailed, so they switch back and forth, correct?
Yeah, they're being blackmailed. That's how the deep state controls everybody. They get blackmailed. And so for the people like in the Democratic Party that are way up there, they've blackmailed them so bad they can't even go by their original name. For example, Nancy Pelosi, her actual real name is the Nancy D'Alessandro, and the Alessandros are huge mafia out in California. Right.
The father was in the Baltimore mafia.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Her brother was recently dead or something. They didn't even report that.
That's a sacrifice.
Oh, he wasn't really old though, wasn't he? Like 90 years old.
Yeah, and then for example, Barack Hussein Obama is. People think is Barry Soetoro. Even that one's not right. The actual name at birth is Barry Muhammad Sabood, and his grandfather is the one that started the Muslim Brotherhood.
I see. And he was born in a foreign country, correct?
Yeah, he was actually born in Nigeria, and then when he became Barry Soetoro, they faked him being born in Indonesia.
No, but then where did the Kenya thing come in?
That's another fake out that they have several usually that they're going to fake that out too. So that's the second fake out. Then you got the third and the fourth. It's kind of like Cambodia, we're not there yet. We're there. We're doing this. No, we're not doing that. We're doing this.
Okay, then so we have the 3 people that are against Trump that are in the GOP. That would be Collins, Murkowski, and Mitt Romney. What do they have on them?
Oh, they're totally blackmailed. Totally.
What is?
And again, those aren't their real names.
Okay, what is Murkowski, the one from Alaska? I saw Dianne Feinstein cowering over her. What does she have on her?
They're just, kind of just the fact that, she's done some things that are that the general populace would not care for. And so she's pretty, and then also you got to realize if you can't blackmail somebody, the next thing you do, like they did with Kennedy and John Kennedy, is, his real love was Marilyn Monroe. And so they first threatened to kill her because he didn't care if they told everybody. So they said, well, kill her if you do what you're going to do and tell everybody about it, because he'd already done one speech and started printing U.S. American reserve notes and was getting us off the Fed. And then they killed Marilyn Monroe. And then they threatened, they told him they're going to kill him. And he said, I don't care. You're not going to kill me. But they did, of course. And so they threaten you and everybody in your family and everybody you care about. So in her case, it's not so much blackmail as they're threatening her whole family, and they have some of them hostage as well.
Okay, so what's up with them Collins then?
Which Collins are you referring to? By the way, Collins is bloodline. That's one of the big bloodline families, the Collins family. That's why
she's GOP, the Collins, but she stood up for Kavanaugh, so I don't know. She seems to have done a switch against Trump.
Yeah, she's just going back and forth because they probably have some blackmail on her. I don't know the details on her.
Is she the bloodline too?
Yeah, she's bloodliner. She's the Collins family. If you remember the old Dark Shadows, that was the Collins family that were the vampires. She's way up in the bloodlines. She's a bloodliner. Doesn't mean, there are 2 Rothschilds I know of that are not on the dark side.
Okay,
so because you're way up doesn't mean you're evil.
What about Mitt Romney? You must have a lot of hair on him, Mitt Romney.
Yeah, Mitt Romney, Obama framed the bejeebers out of him, actually Big Mike. They framed the living heck out of him. And so they have so much, and it's mostly he's another huge map, minor attractive person. So they have tons and tons of videos of him. And then he also did the Olympic scandal, the monies for the Olympic scandal. That you remember that?
Yeah.
He was the main mover and shaker, and he's the one that reaped all that and stole all that monies. And so they have that all on him, and that's why.
Didn't he get money from the El Salvadorian kill gangs to start his company Bain Capital?
Yep, that's what I mean. They have so much stuff on him. That's why he just kowtowed down.
That's why that's how the CIA does it, right? They find the most corrupt person, and then they kind of build you up a little bit, and then they confront you with all your stuff, and then they make you take a fall. Because when you can tell in the debates with Oblami that on the second day he took a deep dive for sure. You can totally see that. So he totally sold out. So now I'm surprised that he's not being arrested, because he's really making a lot of noise.
Well, they're doing that so they can follow him and get more information on the network, because the network is so vast over the thousands of years they've been, running through families and getting in the sacred families and all of that. It's so vast. Right. That they don't know who's who, and so the alliance doesn't know who's who. I mean, they got a lot because they took the NSA completely over and all the servers, and they've also taken out the dumbs under DC, which included where the hammer was. So everything that was in the hammer. But there's so many people. I mean, look at every person you know. I mean, how many of those do you think you're like just here in Colorado? Also over this weekend, there were 43 priests arrested for abusing 73 children over the last 70 years. And you're going to church and you're thinking your priest is a really good guy. And here he is doing this terrible stuff to kids and destroying their spirituality. I mean, to me, that's the height of evil, is this poor kid. You're telling this kid that it's God's will and you're doing all this satanic ritual, that they're a bad kid and all this, and you're destroying that person's spirituality for their entire life. I mean, come on.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I wanted to just go a little bit, one more thing on the bloodlines. The Plantagenets, which are under the Merovingians, are the top family currently, and on the top of that family is the Duke of Orange, which is out of Holland, and that he actually owns the Maersk shipping line outright. And the decode I did in Rick's actually said that it's out of Holland, and because it is that's who owns it. Even though it's a Dutch company, it's actually owned by a person in Holland. And then that person is known not as Pindar. That's another name for Satan. That means that the person under Satan, that's the first physical representative of Satan on earth, is the Duke of Orange, who is known as Rex or Spartacus or Lord Maitreya. Those are the three terms that the deep state uses for the head of the control of the world empire.
Oh my God, so crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah, we got to do this again sometime. This is the longest video I've ever done. My videos are like 17 minutes, but I hope my viewers will be happy with this, and I think it's a lot of information for them to digest.
Great.
Okay, thanks so much, Gene. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
I'm glad to be of service. God bless you and your entire audience, the world, our president, and our brave patriots fighting for our lives.
Let's say MAGA, many are getting arrested. COG, keep arrests going. And where we go one, we go all.
Amen, and that's truth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.